The judge who underestimated Keanu Reeves, what happened next will blow your mind. Judge Patricia Steinberg rolled her eyes as she saw the name on the docket. Keanu Reeves versus Metropolitan Properties, LLC. Just another celebrity throwing money at lawyers, thinking fame could win lawsuits. She'd seen it 1,000 times, but when the courtroom doors opened, only one person walked to the plaintiff's table. Keanu Reeves, alone. No army of suits. No briefcase carrying assistants. Just him, carrying a worn leather messenger bag and wearing a simple black suit that looked like it came from a department store. Judge Steinberg couldn't hide her smirk. "Mr. Reeves, where is your legal representation?" "I'll be representing myself today, Your Honor." The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge's smirk grew wider. This was going to be entertaining. A Hollywood pretty boy playing lawyer against MetProp's legal dream team of 5 Harvard graduates who collectively charged more per hour than most people made in a year. "Mr. Reeves," Judge Steinberg said, her voice dripping with condescension, "this is a complex real estate dispute involving millions of dollars. Are you sure you don't want to call someone?" The defendant's lawyers were already high-fiving under the table. This was Christmas morning, but Keanu's response was calm, almost zen-like. "I'm sure, Your Honor." What nobody in that courtroom knew was that Keanu had spent the last 18 months doing something extraordinary, something that would change everything. You see, this case wasn't really about Keanu at all. 3 years earlier, MetProp had quietly bought a building in downtown LA. Nothing fancy, just an old apartment complex where working families had lived for decades. Rent-controlled, affordable, the kind of place where single mothers could raise their kids and elderly folks could age with dignity. MetProp wanted to demolish it, turn it into luxury condos, triple the profit. But there was a problem. The tenants had legal protections. So MetProp got creative. They started making life unbearable. Renovations that lasted months, heat mysteriously breaking in winter, elevators that stayed broken for weeks, rent notices with impossible terms. One by one, families gave up and moved out, except for Mrs. Chen, 78 years old, living on Social Security. She'd raised 4 kids in apartment 4B after her husband died in Vietnam. Her English wasn't perfect, but her resolve was iron. MetProp offered her money to leave. She refused. They threatened eviction. She stood her ground. They sent lawyers with intimidating letters. She didn't budge. That's when Keanu got involved. Mrs. Chen's grandson David worked craft services on one of Keanu's movies. During lunch one day, David mentioned his grandmother's situation, how she was fighting alone against a corporation trying to steal her home. Most celebrities would write a check and feel good about themselves. Keanu did something different. He asked for Mrs. Chen's address. The next Saturday, Keanu knocked on apartment 4B. Mrs. Chen opened the door to find John Wick himself holding grocery bags and asking if she needed help. They talked for hours. In broken English and patient listening, Mrs. Chen told her story, showed him the legal documents she couldn't understand, the threats, the fear. Keanu made a promise that day. "You won't fight this alone." But here's what nobody expected. Instead of hiring the best lawyers money could buy, Keanu did something unprecedented. He enrolled in UCLA Law School's accelerated program for working professionals. Quietly, no press, no fanfare. For 18 months, while filming movies by day, Keanu studied law by night, real estate law, tenant rights, housing codes, corporate litigation. His professors had no idea who he was. He used his legal name, Keanu Charles Reeves, and wore baseball caps and hoodies to every class. He sat in the back, took notes, asked questions. He wasn't just learning law, he was becoming a weapon. But why represent himself instead of Mrs. Chen? Because MetProp's lawyers had done their homework too. They knew about Keanu's involvement. They were ready for him to fund her defense, to bring in expensive attorneys. They weren't ready for him to stand up and say 4 words that would destroy their entire strategy. "I'm buying the building." The courtroom went silent. Judge Steinberg's smirk vanished. "Excuse me, I'm purchasing the building from MetProp, Your Honor." Today's hearing is about forcing the sale. MetProp's lead attorney shot to his feet. "Objection. The building isn't for sale." And this is where Keanu's 18 months of legal education paid off. Actually, Keanu said, his voice steady as granite, according to California Civil Code, Section 1946.2, when a landlord attempts constructive eviction through habitability violations, which Metprop has done systematically for 3 years, affected tenants can force a sale through partition action. He opened his worn messenger bag and pulled out a stack of documents thick as a phone book. I have here 847 photographs documenting habitability violations, sworn affidavits from 23 former tenants describing harassment, building inspection reports Metprop tried to suppress, financial records showing their deliberate neglect. The defense attorney's face went white. Furthermore, Keanu continued, I've prepared a forensic analysis of Metprop's communication records, obtained through proper discovery, showing explicit coordination to force tenant displacement through illegal means. Judge Steinberg wasn't smirking anymore. She was listening hard. Your Honor, Metprop violated housing law 247 times across 3 years. Each violation carries a penalty of $1,000 to $50,000. But more importantly, their pattern of abuse triggered California's Ellis Act protections, giving me, Mrs. Chen's designated representative Mrs. the right to purchase this building at fair market value, not inflated development prices. The lead defense attorney was frantically whispering to his team. They clearly hadn't expected this level of legal sophistication. Mr. Reeves, Judge Steinberg said carefully, these are serious allegations with significant legal implications. How do you propose to prove systematic harassment? Keanu reached into his bag again and pulled out a tablet. Video evidence, Your Honor. The courtroom held its breath as Keanu connected his tablet to the projection system. What appeared on screen made everyone gasp. Security footage, hidden cameras Keanu had legally installed throughout the building with Mrs. Chen's permission as a tenant. Months of evidence showing Metprop employees deliberately breaking heating systems, sabotaging elevators, and even staging fake gas leaks to evacuate tenants. But the most damning footage came next. A recorded conversation between Metprop executives, captured in their own conference room during a meeting they thought was private. Keanu had legally obtained it through discovery, but hearing their voices plotting to make the old Chinese lady's life hell until she breaks, sent shockwaves through the courtroom. We just need to be creative about it. One executive laughed on the recording. Nothing technically illegal, just make living there unbearable. Judge Steinberg's face had gone from skeptical to furious. The defense attorney tried desperately to object, but Keanu was ready. All evidence was obtained legally through proper channels, Your Honor. I also have documentation showing Metprop's pattern of identical behavior in 4 other LA buildings, displacing over 200 families using these same tactics. The judge looked at the defense table. Counsel, do you wish to respond to these allegations? The lead attorney stood up shakily. This Harvard graduate, who'd never lost a case, suddenly looked like a first-year law student. Your Honor, we need time to review these documents. How much time? Judge Steinberg asked. Several weeks. Denied. Mr. Reeves, what exactly are you seeking? Keanu stood up. For a moment he wasn't an actor playing a role. He was something more powerful, a man who'd spent 18 months becoming exactly what he needed to be. Your Honor, I'm seeking a court order forcing Metprop to sell the building to me at appraised value, $2.1 million. I'm also seeking damages for affected tenants totaling $8.7 million. And I'm requesting this court refer Metprop's executives to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. The silence was deafening. Judge Steinberg looked at her paperwork, then at the evidence, then at Keanu. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of justice. In 30 years on this bench, I've rarely seen such thorough legal preparation or such compelling evidence of corporate malfeasance. Mr. Reeves, your documentation is impeccable, your legal arguments are sound, and frankly, Metprop's behavior as presented here is unconscionable. She turned to the defense table. Counselor, unless you have evidence contradicting these allegations, I'm prepared to rule. The lead attorney looked defeated. No, Your Honor. Then I hereby order Metprop to sell the building to Mr. Reeves at fair market value within 30 days. I'm awarding damages to affected tenants as requested. And yes, I'm referring this matter to the DA's office for potential criminal charges. The gavel came down like thunder. But the story doesn't end there. As everyone filed out of the courtroom, Judge Steinberg called Keanu aside. Mr. Reeves, I owe you an apology. I underestimated you. Keanu smiled that humble smile the world knows so well. It happens, Your Honor. Where did you study law? UCLA night program. Took me 18 months. Judge Steinberg shook her head in amazement. In 18 months, you became a better attorney than lawyers who've practiced for decades. Why? Keanu thought for a moment. Because I wasn't learning law to win cases, Your Honor. I was learning it to protect someone who couldn't protect herself. 3 months later, Mrs. Chen was still living in apartment 4B, but now she was living there rent-free, in a beautifully renovated building that Keanu had restored and converted into affordable housing for seniors. He never moved in himself, never made a profit. He just made sure Mrs. Chen and families like hers had somewhere safe to call home. The building has a small plaque by the entrance now. It doesn't mention Keanu's name. It simply reads, "Home is not where you are from, it is where you belong." Mrs. Chen still makes him soup every Sunday, and Judge Steinberg, she never underestimated anyone again, because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove it. Sometimes, the real victory isn't winning the case, it's becoming the person worthy of fighting it.